YouTube, what's up? Back again for another daily fishing video here on Andrew Upshaw Fishing. Guys, I'm just going to tell you right now, y'all have been like so fantastic. Y'all are watching my videos, you're liking my videos, you're commenting on my videos. I can't do it without y'all, but that actually is probably the driving force behind me shooting these videos and trying to be consistent, and it is hard. I mean, some of y'all have looked at me a few nights and been like, dude, you need to like go take a nap, and you're not wrong. I mean, I've been a lot of stress going on, getting ready to move and all those things. But you know what? East Texas, specifically East Texas, is really dealing with some severe flooding right now. And actually reminded me of a topic of discussion because a few years ago I fished a Costa event at Rayburn, and it was extremely flooded like that. And I want to talk a little bit about flipping Magnum plastics. Not your standard plastics, not like a game hog, a sweet beaver, a rage bug, rage crawl. You know, all the normal size 3.5 to 4 inch plastics. I'm going to talk a little bit about Magnum plastics because, let's be honest, there is that old saying is big baits catch big fish, and I absolutely believe that. I mean, just look at Brandon Polnick going to the James River with a big swim bait. Nobody even thought to throw a big swim bait. He went out there and just absolutely wrecked them. So that is one of the big things. Big baits catch big fish. But I'm going to explain to you a little bit more behind the process of that, and not just saying, hey, here's 3 big baits and this is what you need to catch big ones. But I'm going to explain kind of what I think the reason is that those big baits work so well. I hope y'all really enjoy this video. If you haven't yet, hit that sub button in the bottom right hand corner and comment below what is your favorite Magnum plastic bait. I'd love to know. And maybe what color it is too, because you know it kind of goes hand in hand a lot of times. And so I hope y'all enjoy it, and I'll see you here in just a second. Alright guys, first off we're going to talk about why Magnum plastics work. Why are they just so specifically honed in on catching big fish? And a lot of times it has really nothing to do with that for me. The reason I throw big plastics is to eliminate the small bites. I'm not necessarily just saying, hey, I'm going to go throw the biggest bait I got just so I catch that 1 or 2 or 3 biggest bass that I can catch. Because here, I'm going to give you a scenario. You get on a body of water that has a ton of 1.5-pound fish, okay? And 1.5-pound, 2-pound fish, and you're really just having to weed through them the whole time, and you're wasting a lot of plastic, you're wasting a lot of bites, and you kind of get in such a rhythm that you're not paying attention as much as you should, and bam, the 7-pounder eats it, and you're like, oh my god, that's actually a big one, and you're reeling it in, it comes off. Well, what I think, and it's more of a mental thing for me, what I do is when I pick up a Magnum plastic, let's just say a Magnum game hog, and I'm flipping this thing around, I treat every bite like it's a big bite. I'm not worried about catching a 1.5-pounder. Don't get me wrong, you're going to catch some 1.5-pounders on a big bait, you know, like a big Magnum game hog. But the thing is it eliminates so many little bites. So when you get one, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the right one. And that is what I'm looking for when I'm flipping that big bait. You know, I'm not necessarily just looking to say, man, I'm going to throw the biggest one I can to catch that big fish. It's more to eliminate the small bites. So then instead of getting 50 bites a day and having to weed through so many, I'm getting 10 bites a day, and I might have one that's really not a decent one, or maybe 2 at most. So when I get that bite, I'm ready, everything's right, and I'm going to catch that fish. And I'm not just, you know, overly distracted by little ones, you know, because that's probably one of the worst things about practice. You know, I get a lot of questions about practice. You know, if I'm going out there practicing and I'm flipping just a rage bug and I'm in a body of water that flipping is absolutely the deal. So like Rayburn, for instance, right now, it's so flooded. Everybody knows that's how you're going to go catch fish right now. Well, if you go out there with a rage bug and practice, you might have a day where you get 40 bites. Well, of those 40 bites, 25 or 30 of them might only be that 1.5-pound, 2-pound fish, and those are not the ones you want. But if you're shaking them off the whole time, you're like, man, that was a big one, that was a big one, that was a big one. And that's not really how it works. But if I go out there with the Magnum game hog, I know if I get a bite on that thing, it's a big enough profile that it's probably going to be a decent to bigger fish. And that is one thing that it helps eliminate a lot of those small bites, and you're not worried about it as much. Now, when it comes to big bait offerings, especially in flipping shallow, heavy cover, whether it's wood, you know, whether it's bushes, willow trees, cypress trees, whatever it may be, I've only got about 3 big plastics that I flip majority of the time. Now, don't get me wrong, like I might mix in a bait or two. I remember one of the very first baits that I ever really flipped in heavy cover was a Zoom brush hog, the big brush hog. And I know some of you, if you flipped heavy cover, you absolutely know what I'm talking about. It was absolutely the deal. Still, to this day, catches the fire out of them. I've just kind of transitioned to the Magnum Game Hog. And honestly, the reason that I've transitioned baits is because this one's so soft. Now, the only problem is you catch maybe 2 fish off of this bait. Whenever you hook a fish on this, I mean, it's so soft. Your hookup ratio is immensely better. I mean, like, guys, I'm just telling you flat out, your hookup ratio on the Magnum Game Hog is immensely better. It has, you know, the one thing that we used to always do, a little trick, you see how these little arms are. On the brush hog, it's actually an arm that's attached. Well, we used to detach them to give them a little bit more action. But these are already a little curl tail, so you don't have to detach them. And it still has, you know, the big profile, and that's mainly what I'm looking for. And we have it in a couple colors that I really like. We have a Cali Crawl, which is like California 420. We have this one here, which is Candy Crawl. I keep it pretty basic, though, guys. I'm not going to lie. Like, I keep them like Big Texan, California 420, Green Pumpkin, Black Blue, and that's about it. I mean, sometimes they want that orangish brown. Sometimes they want a Green Pumpkin. Sometimes they want that red flake. Sometimes I'll flip Watermelon Red, too, but California 420 kind of is that good, even mix for me. I'm flipping it on a 5/0 straight shank hook. You kind of have to upsize your weight, though. You know, if any of y'all have watched any of my flipping videos, one of the main things, I like flipping lighter better. The lightest weight that I can get away with, the better off it is for me. But with the bigger plastics, you have to flip a heavier weight. It will not get the right fall rate. You got to get it to the bottom of the bush a lot of times. And on Rayburn right now, you're dealing with 6-7 foot deep bushes in some situations, maybe 10 foot deep bushes. And if you're flipping an 1/8 ounce, you're not getting it to the bottom of that bush. I promise you guys, you're not doing it. So you got to flip at least a 3/8 bare minimum. Probably up to a 1/2 to 3/4 even, especially the hotter the water gets. So that is one of the big keys. And I can't stress it enough. If you're on a body of water that you've got giant fish and they're pulled up in those bushes, do not flip fluorocarbon. You're going to get your feelings hurt. You might catch those 3 and 4 pounders, and you might luck up and get one of those 7 or 8 pounders and get them in. But your landing percentage goes down immensely when you are flipping that super heavy cover with fluorocarbon when the bushes get deeper than about 3 to 5 foot. Once they get past that 8, 10, 12, I mean, however deep the bushes may get, you need to get to braid. Because here, I'll give you a scenario. That bait falls through a bush, okay? It falls all the way through the bottom. So it's winding through the limbs and everything. Well, if you're 10 foot down there and that bait goes to the bottom and you're hinged in the top of the bush right here and this bait's down here 10 foot deep and that fish eats it, he swims to the right just a little bit, or left, whatever direction. I think that's the left for me. But he swims this direction. Look at the amount of slack that you have in your line right there. Now, it may seem like it's tight because it is tight. But your hookup is going to be awful because the fish is sitting over here at the bottom of the bush, and you set the hook as hard as you can with fluorocarbon, you're not hooking that fish. I'm just telling you flat out. Your bait might not even get penetrated by the hook. I don't care how soft your bait is. But with braid, the thing about it, it doesn't matter if, you don't have a tight line. There's zero, like truly zero stretch in braid. So when you set the hook, it doesn't matter if your line's a little bit to the side. It's still going to drive that hook a little bit. And then you still might lose a few of them too. So that's one of the things. The other plastic I use is a 6-inch Ocho. I think a 6-inch Ocho is absolutely killer, especially in that really shallow, big bait offerings. It's definitely one of those that I turn to. Once again, colors are super simple, guys. Y'all don't have to make it super complicated. Green Pumpkin, Candy Crawl, California 420. Okeechobee Crawl is a really good color option as well. But my last but not least is the Magnum Rage Bug. The Magnum Rage Bug, y'all know how much I love the Rage Bug. So I'm not just going to dive right into why, every little instance where the Rage Bug or Magnum Rage Bug's better than the other. But if I want a big bait offering and I still want to keep that Rage Bug action and profile, I'll go to the Magnum. Once again, 5/0 hook. I use a straight shank. Some guys don't like straight shanks, but I do. 5/0 straight shank. I use an Owner I want to say it's the Jungle hook. It's a 4 times strong hook. You can use it with fluorocarbon, by the way. Some people are kind of hesitant to use a hook with that diameter with fluorocarbon, but I have to upsize my rod slightly. So I'll go to like a 7.5 foot flipping stick, heavy action, and you'll get the hook set perfect every single time. But between these 3 baits, you know, the Magnum Game Hog, the 6-inch Ocho, and the Magnum, oh golly, I went blank. Magnum Rage Bug. And between those 3 baits, I think it'll fill every void that you need whenever you're flipping that super heavy cover. And it will get you those bites that you need. But big, huge reminder, please flip braid. Because I don't want y'all to get in my comment section after this and say, man, he told me to flip fluorocarbon and 10-foot bushes, and I lost them, and you're going to blame me, and that is not okay. If you choose to fish fluorocarbon and 10-foot bushes, that's on you, buddy. I promise you. But hey, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a little bit about flipping Magnum plastics and kind of the idea behind those Magnum plastics. And maybe they'll help you catch one of those giants out of those flooded bushes.